Hello, this is an assessment for restoration of a Feurich upright piano made in 1898 or 1899. This makers to the King of Saxony here dates it before 1918 at least, because the Kings of Saxony finished then, but we know it's that number because of the serial numbers in the book we have. Now it has a very handsome rosewood cabinet, similar style to the Bechstein Model 3, the way these edges are curved round. In fact, this casework is extremely similar height too. This is 130 centimetres tall. It's a typically good rosewood of the time, Rio rosewood. It does have some fading here on the left-hand side. That could possibly be, well, patched in a bit, but it's going to be difficult to do without repolishing the whole piano. But the piano generally doesn't need fully repolishing. It would certainly improve immensely if it was fully repolished. Now here's a Steinway upright that we have fully repolished for a client, and you can see the rosewood there. We also don't make it too reflective, so you can see the grain much better. Now the piano's got an 88-note ivory keyboard, a bit yellowed in places, but generally in very good condition. There's no chips at all on it. Don't think any of them have come off. Perhaps some of these have come off and been stuck back on again, but a reasonably good job made of that. Now there's something very unusual about this piano, as we'll show you in a minute. One thing is that it's hardly been used since that time. Has had some use at one stage, but been left unused for a very long time. We'll show you why. And you can see the two pedals there. That shows that that's been used more than that one. Possibly bending down slightly. So maybe when it was first made, it was used a reasonable amount. Now taking the front of the piano off, we can see the serial number back there on the soundboard, which confirms the age of the piano. Our piano is a very high quality piano. We have sold a Feurich 1925 Feurich that was fully restored to a professional musician. He's left his testimonial on our website if you're interested. This one though is in extremely bad condition, needs fully restoring as well. Now the piano is more than a semitone flat. If we listen to the A for tuning fork, more than a semitone flat, which is an extraordinary amount of flatness for a high quality piano. It probably means it's not been tuned for an extraordinarily long time. Having said that, it's badly out of tune with itself down there, but it's moved, typical high quality piano has moved the same amount right throughout. There's a new string here though, and you can hear that one not been tuned since that was put on, and that's also a semitone flat practically. So the new string is 2 out of the 3, that's why it sounds out of tune, because the third string is in tune and the other 2 aren't. I just thought I'd show you why it's 2 strings that have been replaced, because in fact it's only 1 string. I don't know if you can see the new one there, but it goes down and back up. So it's 1 string going down, the same string goes back up and forms the second string. And by the way, if you're a tuner and you get a broken string, because it goes down and back up again, most of them do anyway, that means you can use the same string again, wind it down off one pin and back up on the other one. It's better than replacing a string, because you've got the problem with the new string settling down. Also the tone of it may not be exactly the same as the old ones. Of course, if you look at these, they're very rusty, so it may be that the tuner tried to do that and then found he couldn't, because they're extremely rusty. Having said that, from experience, even though they look unbelievably rusty and are unbelievably flat as well, if you lubricate along here and leave it, on this case you'd have to leave it for maybe a day, then lubricate again, it'll soak in. This is a pressure point here, and they break because when you turn them up here, the pressure here is a lot. It doesn't really pull past this pressure point because it's got rusted on. So you take it down first and then back up again, and hopefully it will stay in tune. It'll not break. Now, I would say these are particularly flat and very far gone in terms of rusty. Of course, if it was a stock piano, we would just restring it, but I'm just telling you this in case you want to do a budget job for somebody, and you could potentially do that. You have to tell them that there's a great risk of breaking strings anyway. But if you take them down carefully and then bring them right up, it could well go to concert pitch without breaking any more strings. Now this is very odd and sad really, because somebody's taken the felts out from under the keys. Perhaps they were very moth-eaten, so these felted need replacing, and they've replaced them with very, very thick felt. That was 6mm felt, should be replaced with 3mm felt. As a result, there wasn't nearly enough key dip. Now if there's not enough key dip, this is one of the things that happens. No control over the note, double bounces, you see them all play a whole chord, they're all double bouncing. So that's disastrous and doesn't feel very nice to play, so perhaps that's why it wasn't played so much. Now the one that we've regulated, we've done C here, C sharp, and they're fine. That's the one that needs got a new string on it. So also there's a bit of lost motion. Here we've also got some lost motion here. The other effect of not having enough key dip and also having some lost motion is that when you play softly, the hammer doesn't get anywhere near the string. If we try middle C here, which we've regulated, that gets nearer the string. It still needs to have the set-off adjusted. Without the set-off adjusted, this is C sharp, which we also increased the key dip on. You see, it doesn't get very close to the string. With the set-off adjusted, much closer. You want to get as close as possible, but still play comfortably so it doesn't double bounce. This is where the set-off adjuster is, so it's right down there. Sorry, can't really get to see it that clearly, but maybe if we look through here, you can just about see me turning it. No, maybe another time I'll make a video showing how you do that, but if you're a technician, you obviously know what I'm talking about there anyway. Now, if this was a stock piano, we'd also replace the tapes because we want to lubricate this part before sending it out again. So you'd have to replace the tape because they'll break when you take them off and put them back on. For a budget job, you might, it's not desperate to lubricate, it's just obviously something that's nice to do. There's one note here that's not working as well because the jack's not going under. That's pretty easy to solve. Looking at the hammers, they're original. There's not an amazing amount of wear considering the age of the piano, so they could be refaced and voiced. Again, we would probably well, I don't know what we do if it's a stock piano, because the problem is with this kind of piano is the value of the piano afterwards. Another thing we look for when it's a piano to restore, how hard are the hammers, and these are hard. They're very well made hammers, and I think just refacing them will be fine. Obviously on high quality pianos we change the hammers very often as well, but it's a difficult decision because Feurich also obviously thought long and hard about which hammers to put on their pianos, and with a good maker you want to respect that. You also check the bass bridges, and that's fine. It's interesting to see how they finished off the winding on these strings. That shows a lot of care and attention. One nuisance with some of these older pianos, and again this shows you the age of the piano, it can't be 1920s, it's got to be before that, because the rocker system was used about 1899, typical, and the rocker system, you had to adjust that up to take up the slack. You take that up, take that down, sorry, take that down, I beg your pardon, raises that up, and take this the opposite. So but these tend to rust in a bit, especially on the older pianos, so you have to heat them up, lubricate them as well possibly before you turn them, otherwise you're going to break the end of the screw there. So that's an assessment for restoration of a Feurich upright piano, 1898 or 1899, and at the moment it's in need of a lot of restoration. Mainly we've got the regulation is very, very bad indeed. It feels really terrible to play, but you can tell underneath it all there's a good tone of piano. It's a very well made make, a very good make Feurich, and they do restore very well. The bass is a bit tubby, but that would there's a choice to either restring the piano, which may be necessary anyway because the strings are rusty and may not pitch phrase. It's very below pitch. That is about 30 beats below pitch, which is extraordinarily low. 35 I think actually. And that string has been replaced, so. But a piano with a lot of potential. It may not sound like it at the moment, but from experience of this kind of quality, very similar looking piano to the Bechstein Model 3, which is a piano that we restore a lot, although you don't normally have to change the rest plank on those. So sorry, it doesn't sound very nice at the moment, but thank you very much for watching. And now we finished the work on the piano of restoration. It turned out the client wanted us to do a budget job, in other words to take things in order of priority and do the most important things first. So we haven't done any of the cosmetic work on the piano, on the outside of the piano. Obviously it makes no difference to the sound of it. I notice here that on this music stand someone's put the book holder on so that it's poking out the top. There's lots of cosmetic things we could do. By the way, when you see two music stands on the piano, it's a good sign. Typical German. Some English makes too of that age. This is 1899, and it does look very smart. So now the most important jobs, the key dips, now just under 11, 10.5 or 11 is normal, and just plays beautifully, as we'll see in a minute. Now we managed to regulate these without having to heat them up at all. In fact, actually, they weren't too seized up at all. Sounds that's a sign of a good piano. So we took these down and took up the key slack, and now, as you can see, there is no slack. In other words, the top part here is moving the same as the bottom, so we have no problem with that anymore. So no slack. The key dip has increased, and now, as we can see here, the hammers are travelling and they're not bouncing around, they're travelling beautifully. Now we've increased the set off, we made the set off as close as possible. So if you look at the C here, so set off is very, very close. Obviously, to get real finesse takes a very long time, and ideally changing all the felts so you get everything exactly the same as each other. But on a budget job, we can still get sort of, let's say, 90% of what you get on in terms of set off and general action regulation. So it's all working really beautifully, and you've got tremendous control on, even in soft playing, you've got real control now. That's middle C, that's C sharp. Remember C sharp, we had another string that's been put in tune now, obviously. And now the pitch, that's the A, tuning fork, and is almost dead on A440. Actually, when we pitch phrase, we normally leave it a couple of beats sharp so that it can go back down. Maybe that was the case, but don't forget how flat this was. This was over a semitone flat. Now, remember we talked about lubricating these pressure points here. Here it's we talked about the pressure bar. There is also going to be a pressure point there. Here is the pressure bar, literally called a pressure bar to put pressure on the string. So that's why you get a problem with rust bonding. Let's see what's happened. Looking at the bass, all pitch phrase. You see that string there, and that one there, we've had to splice. It did break. You can replace them, but better still with splicing. And if I get close enough for you to see the splice, it's like a reef knot. I'm not really into knots, but that's the only knot I know how to do, is a splice on the string, which we do. If it doesn't work, well, you attempted it and you have to buy another string. The ideal, in fact you can do this, is to use the same string here. I think in this case someone's added a new piece of string, but you can actually wind the string down if you've got no extra string. Use the same piece of string, do the splice, and of course there won't be many turns on here, but it's very effective. I think we've had to put a larger tuning pin in. I think one of these tuning pins was bushed as well with a little piece of sandpaper. I think it's that one there. We would normally change, or no, that one has been changed, so we normally change tuning pins if they're loose. You can bush them if you're not got anything. I'm talking about doing budget jobs now, so obviously that's relevant for a budget job. You wouldn't do that for a proper restoration. I'm going right through here. It's a beautiful, rich, warm sound, but much more mellow than a modern piano. That new string there seems to be matching in really well, so that's good. Whoever put that on chose a good match. And now we have broken one other string on the way up. Let's try and find it. Actually, it looks like two strings. So that one there, you can see the coil's less because it's been wound down, wound up the other side and wound back up, and that coil there. So those ones there, that's the same string, and this one here is the same string as that one there. So we've changed two strings there, two breakages, but no other breakages on the whole piano. That's very encouraging. So whenever you see extremely rusty piano, don't write it off as we're going to break all the strings. Have a go maybe at pitch raising, especially, well, if it's a high quality piano. You may feel if it's a very cheap piano you don't want to bother, but on this Feurich we definitely were enthusiastic. I think we've gone over the budget number of hours we allotted, but we were enthusiastic to do the work. Now, we didn't change the tapes. They're all holding together. There was one down in the bass end here. There was a note that was sticking. That was a spring. I think that was easy to sort out, and we may have taken the tape off. If you do take tapes off and they're really half far gone, the tip is to get them moist first and then just pull it off so that it hopefully will all stay together. When you put it back on, it won't break here as they normally do. This, as I say, I'm talking budget jobs here. We would, if it was a stock piano, we'd change all the tapes automatically, lubricate the action and so forth. But to try and keep within budget, this has been an exercise in doing the most important work. Refacing the hammers and voicing them, we've managed to get, I think, a beautiful, rich, warm, quiet tone. Well, the piano was originally quite quiet compared to a modern piano, pianos have tended to go louder, but a beautifully made piano, and so the break point there is beautifully finished off. Been easy to voice around that break point. Of course, we'd like to voice for longer, but we had to stop somewhere. Dampers were difficult. In fact, we'd like to change damper springs, really. Hear that one there? That could do with a fly damper like this one has, because you can hear the high harmonic. Listen to that one. That could do with another fly damper. Obviously, the manufacturer didn't put it on. But the match there is really good and consistent throughout. And as I say, a very rich, warm tone. So that's a budget restoration of this Feurich upright piano, and made in 1899, one of the best periods for pianos manufactured. We used to do a lot of restoration like this in the early days when keyboards, that is touch-sensitive weighted keyboards, hadn't come in. And so everybody who wanted to learn the piano had to have a piano, so we used to do a lot of restoration of all types of pianos that we'd love to restore these today, but it's getting the amount of restoration we'd like to do to pay for it. If you have a high quality upright piano and you want it restored and you really don't think you can afford it, maybe you'd be surprised. So please contact us, let us know what make of piano you have, and we can write back to you and let you know whether we think it's a possibility. A couple of photographs of the inside will be really, really useful. Serial number, and much details about the pianos you have, really. This just has such a warm and very powerful, if you want it to do. And right down to the bottom of the piano, such a well-crafted instrument, really. Thank you very much for listening.